Okwaba, welcome back. If you are just joining us in this final episode of Season 2, I want to introduce you to my own scholarly observations in a document I have titled The Referents. Picking up from referent number 1, the state of miseducation and ISFET, that is, chaos and confusion, and the confusion it causes in every aspect of life, are elements that facilitate each of the remaining referents. So, referent number 2. We are still in a mode I have dubbed crisis management. What does this mean? It means we are literally not galvanized to action in our own behalf unless there is a crisis. When our community is in crisis, we respond loudly. We organize, we march, we petition, we boycott, we agitate. But when the crisis is over, we go about our business until the next crisis presents itself. Part of the tragedy of this behavior is the opportunity to stay organized, continue to strategize, and develop a long-range plan of ongoing actions is lost. The energy that was harnessed dissipates, and what could have been a galvanizing moment with long-lasting impact is wasted. Examples of this include the Million Man and Million Woman March in the United States, the immigration protests in Bermuda, and the Black Lives Matter marches that spanned the globe. Crisis management is the blood relation to reactionary mode. We have become a reactionary people based on a history that has had us reacting to events imposed upon us since our ancestors were brutally kidnapped and forced into bondage. A people who constantly and consistently react to the circumstances of life begin to believe that they have no power to actually create a different reality. To be able to create what we really want requires a proactive stance and a forward-thinking mindset. If we're ever going to thrive in this 21st century, we cannot wait for others to do the work necessary for ourselves, our children, and our communities. All an essential part of this work includes addressing our state of miseducation by teaching ourselves and our children the truth of our history. Only then can we rise from the ashes of oppression with appreciation for what our ancestors endured and the inspiration, along with a new motivation for liberating ourselves totally. To quote the Honorable Marcus Garvey, we are going to emancipate ourselves from mental slavery because whilst others might free the body, none but ourselves can free the mind. The man who is not able to develop and use his mind is bound to be the slave of the other man who uses his mind. End quote. Referent number 3. We do not have privacy. Other groups meet privately on a regular basis to discuss and strategize for their communal well-being. We do not do this. Our meetings are open to the media and friends who have already developed the counterattack before we get our plan off the ground. This point was not lost on Dr. Pauulu Kamarakafego when he organized the Black Power Conference in 1969 in Bermuda. Brother Pauulu forbade the press and white people from attending the conference proceedings, quite to their displeasure, I might add. Related to the idea of communal well-being is trust. Community building relies on trust as an essential element. Most of us know that not all skin folk are kinfolk, but we do not necessarily act accordingly. We are in desperate need of cultivating small, confidential, private circles with people we have come to know and trust. This is a process that requires time, intention, and purpose. As outlined in Dr. Asa G. Hilliard's book, The Reawakening of the African Mind, this idea became a fundamental element of the philosophy of Ashay University. In practicing Seba, that is reading, studying, discussing the history together, we began to learn each other, our way of thinking, our capacities, and our essential spirit. Relationships develop based on commonalities, care, respect, and trust that leads to cooperation with work that is difficult to do individually. I can tell you from personal, professional experience that what work I have been able to accomplish in this journey is a reflection of building trust with a small community of people in the United States, Bermuda, the Bahamas, and Ghana. One fundamental ingredient for building community is the idea of standards. While some may bristle at the idea of standards, it is important to note that our ancestors created and established standards of excellence as a model for forward progress. Standards of right conduct are obvious in the ethical conception of Ma'at and the Yoruba tenet of bringing good into the world. We can witness the physical standard of excellence in the pyramids with all of the skills that were mastered to bring this ancient structure to fruition. A structure, I might add, that still stands magnificently today and remains one of the great wonders of the world. Do not apologize for doing your work with excellence with high standards. I have learned not to concern myself with people who are not about high standards, excellence, or are trustworthy challenged. This is especially important for the work of building community. I cannot emphasize enough that you must have trust, integrity, and a standard of excellence in your own work, whatever that work is. What I know for sure is if you can't do it right, leave it alone. If you don't have the resources to properly execute your idea, wait until you do. Know what you do and do what you know. If you can't bring it with passion and excellence, just don't do it. We have enough of that. Also, please note that your word, integrity, is all you really have in this life. With integrity and excellence, respect is earned. Respect does not mean like. In that regard, I know I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but then again, I drink strong coffee. What I also know is that pushback is confirmation that you are moving the ball forward. After all, nobody pushes back if you are maintaining the status quo. Moving forward with referent number 4, we have accepted values and ideals which have not served us well as a people. Examples of this include misplaced competition. This mode of operation has done more damage to African unity than any other Western ideal. Instead of cooperating to enlarge the slice, we compete with ourselves for a small and pitiful piece of the pie. Related to this idea is what I call the only room for one rule. Some of y'all know about that. Then there's individualistic materialism. This not only allows us to disconnect from ourselves, but assist in our self-destruction by defining success in materialistic, individualistic terms. Dr. Karenga called it vulgar careerism. I call it getting the MBA to get the BMW, and by the way, how many flat screen TVs and technological gadgets can we own? We must redefine success in our own image and benefit. Proverbs 3:31 tells us, envy not the oppressor and choose none of his ways. We must understand the dire implications of choosing materialism and straight up individualism with no connection, care for, or obligation to our community. I had the misfortune of a young person telling me he doesn't believe in community. Tragic. Clearly, we have work to do. Other values that do not serve us include overindulgence of entertainment, particularly television, cable, and movie watching. It has been documented that our children watch more television than any other children, with an average of 5-6 hours per day. What does television tell our children about who they are? Further, we cannot cry racism when our children are watching TV and playing video games and other children are studying. Related to this is our overinflation of sports culture. This particular misplaced value has become a replacement for academic achievement for our youth. Sadly, we can name several Black heroes of sports before we can name the significant Black achievers and contributors to science, industry, law, education, even politics. Again, this speaks to our mass miseducation. A value that we must begin to embrace is the idea of inner attainment versus entertainment. Inner attainment comes from within ourselves. It is reading materials that educate, inspire, or uplift. It is meditation, prayer, and contemplation. It is thinking deep thoughts, listening to good music, immersing yourself in nature, or just being still, quiet. Inner attainment is part of the shift, along with redefining our values to serve our people as opposed to the status quo. We'll be right back.